Alright, what do I even say to start the video? Alright, UFC 294 was supposed to take place in a couple weeks and was supposed to be headlined by Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev. We are now 10 days out from UFC 294 with some massive news. Charles Oliveira was supposed to fight Islam Makhachev in a rematch after losing to him a year prior. However, it is now confirmed by the UFC that Charles Oliveira had to pull out because he got a cut in sparring about a couple days ago. And yeah, this basically split his eyebrow, they sewed it up, and yeah, Dana White was explaining that, hey, if they would have told the UFC a little bit earlier, maybe they could have done something, but once it's stitched, it's kind of hard to unstitch it, so he had to pull out of the fight. And I was saying it's just one of those injuries that is probably one of the worst because it's one of those things where you're not really injured, right? You're just cut. It's one of those things where it kind of heals up in a couple of weeks, but it's just one of those things where, yeah, you can't fight with that, right? You're just gonna get it called off. But we have the announcement of who is gonna fill in against Islam Makhachev, and that is the one and only Alexander Volkanovski. Now, I have mixed feelings about the matchup, right? We did see Volkanovski have a lot of success against Islam in the last fight. So why do I have mixed emotions? Who do I think is going to win? And do I think Charles Oliveira is going to get another title shot? We're going to talk about all that and more. But first, I want to remind you guys, hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share. We're trying to hit 20K by the end of the year. You guys are the best fan base in MMA, so you're going to help me with that goal. So yeah, let me just get into this right now. So like I said, Charles Oliveira is pulled out. Now Alexander Volkanovski is back. Now I have mixed feelings about this one because on the one hand, this has been the fight I've been wanting since February, since that last fight happened. If you guys have been following the channel, you guys will see me many times saying, hey, I want to see the rematch. I said it in June. I said it in July. I said it up until they announced Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev 2. Now, I had mixed feelings when that was announced, although I did eventually get excited. I did a breakdown recently, breaking down the first fight between Charles and Islam, if you want to check that out, and I explained why I thought that Charles would actually have a better chance at winning this time. And yes, although this is the fight that I have wanted to see for a long time, it does feel a little bit, I don't know how to say it, just not normal because yes, this is on short notice, and I'm just afraid that the result of the fight is going to be, hey, because Volk took it on short notice. Like, I don't want to make the fight become, hey, Volk took it on short notice, so he lost, right? I want a full training camp between these two because this is number one and number two. This is not something to mess around with. Volkanovski was preparing for a fight against Ilia Topuria probably in January. That was the goal. Don't know what's going to happen with that card at all now. Maybe they're going to call in Sean O'Malley or something like that. But yeah, that card now desperately needs a main event, and poor Canada, because I have a feeling they're going to get screwed once again. Maybe they'll have Juliana Pena and Raquel Pennington headline that one. That would be great, right, Canada? But point is, Volkanovski is now going to be taking on Islam Makhachev. Now, before I get into the matchup, I want to talk about Charles Oliveira. So what do I think is going to happen to Charles next? Now, one of the things about this rematch that he had with Islam, Charles and Islam had, it was kind of a circumstantial kind of thing, right? I mean, Charles Oliveira did have a great win against Beneil Dariush, a guy who I said could possibly beat Islam, and he knocked him out inside of the first round, dominated him, and had a great performance. And it was one of those things where Volkanovski was originally supposed to get the rematch. He had surgery, so he was unsure if he was going to be ready for that date. So Charles Oliveira wound up taking it, and they were going to reschedule that Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev fight. So it was kind of a circumstantial type of thing, right? So my question is, do you guys think that Charles Oliveira is going to get a rematch again, assuming Islam gets through Volkanovski, of course? I think for sure there's a possibility that Charles gets a rematch after this. I mean, Charles Oliveira, I mean, he has become a big star over the past few years. A lot of people are fans of him, including myself, and this is a fight that I did want to see. I was getting invested in, and I did see a lot of people getting invested in it too. So do I think that they're going to reschedule a rematch if Islam beats Volk? I actually do think so. I think that they'll come around. I think that it'll happen, and especially if Islam wants to return again pretty quick before Ramadan, I think it makes sense to just run back Oliveira. I mean, yes, you have Justin Gaethje, so that kind of makes things problematic. However, I have been saying, look, I want to see Holloway versus Gaethje. Let's make that matchup. My question is, since we don't have a main event in January, my thing is, will they make an interim title for either the featherweight division or the lightweight division? I have seen some people online suggest that they should make Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria for an interim featherweight title. My counterpoint is this: Max Holloway has lost to Volkanovski 3 times, right? And we can't afford him to beat Ilia Topuria. So as much as I do want to see that matchup, I think no, I don't think they're going to wind up doing that. Ilia Topuria also got really screwed in this whole thing, so poor Ilia. He's in a tough situation right now. I think they're more likely going to do a lightweight interim title, if anything, because look, you got Justin Gaethje, right? You got Charles Oliveira, and if Max Holloway maybe moves up, he could definitely slip his way into an interim champion situation. So honestly, I would not be surprised if they make Oliveira versus Gaethje too for an interim title. However, I don't know if that's really going to sell well. It would be interesting, but I don't know. I think I'll probably pick Oliveira again. I mean, the fight was so one-sided last time. I mean, maybe Gaethje just, you know, connects with the right shot and gets him out of there. But my thing is, I think that Oliveira would probably win with that pressure. But let me know in the comment section below, is that a fight you guys want to see? But let me get into the actual main event. I feel like I've been droning on forever talking about everything else other than Volkanovski versus Islam 2. Now, the first fight was incredibly close. Like I just mentioned to you guys, I had rounds 2, 3, and 5 for Volkanovski. Now, like I said, this was a fight that I want to see because I genuinely believe that this is number 1 versus number 2, or I guess maybe number 2 and number 3 because John Jones is back. But regardless, these are definitely some of the best lightweight lightweights in the world. And yeah, I think Volkanovski definitely has a chance to win this fight because look, when you look at Volkanovski, he's a guy that usually stays active. I am a little bit worried. I did see a video of him swimming, you know, looked like he was on vacation with the rest of the New Zealand guys. So I'm hoping that he wasn't on vacation, and I'm hoping that he has been training a little bit. But let's be honest, dude, the guy has not been in a training camp, right? This has not been a regular training camp that he's been in. He probably hasn't been training wrestling so much. I mean, maybe he has against Ilya, but I mean, look, the guy was preparing for Ilya in a couple months, not fighting in 10 days. So there's no way that this guy has a correct training camp. But the guy usually is in shape at all times. He does have good cardio usually, so I don't think that'll make so much of a difference. But you gotta think the confidence going into the fight. Like, if I'm Volkanovski, I'm pretty nervous because the last one was a close fight. But damn, honestly, first of all, I didn't even say this yet, but props to Volkanovski for accepting a fight of this magnitude on short notice. Like, this is a fight that deserves a full training camp. This isn't a fight that just deserves 10 days notice. This is a fight, this is a massive fight. This is a UFC 300 type main event. So credit to Volkanovski. He's probably getting paid a shit ton for this, I gotta say. And also, this whole Abu Dhabi card is falling apart. At the end of this video, I want to talk about Paulo Costa in a little bit, but like I was saying though, with Volkanovski and Islam, I think that this is a very, very close fight to predict. I'm going to be making a video next week. I had already planned this, but now it makes even more sense. But I'm going to be breaking down Islam versus Volk 1, breaking down similar to how I did with Charles Oliveira and how I did with the KSI fight a couple days ago. I'm going to be breaking down some of the technique, talking about what I think changes each guy needs to make and who I think is going to win the rematch. So don't worry, we're going to get into that. And look, Volkanovski's so tough. We know he's got the cardio. We know he has the strength. As crazy as this sounds, I think I might go with Volkanovski. Listen, guys, if this was like Charles Oliveira taking it on short notice, I would worry because Charles Oliveira isn't exactly one of those guys that has, you know, 100% best cardio, but Volkanovski has some of the best cardio in the game. Best pace, fastest hands, and he's strong too, and he can defend those takedowns. And now that he knows that, I think he's going to come out a little more aggressive. Like in the first fight, he seemed a little more tentative, seemed to be going a little bit slow. But now we're going to see in this matchup, I think we're going to see a really good Alexander Volkanovski, and I think we're going to see a better one than we did back then. But I don't know, my main worry is the confidence from Alexander Volkanovski. He might not be so confident, but neither is Islam. Islam also did accept a much harder fight and probably a very different style fight than he was preparing for. He was probably preparing a lot of grappling, a lot of jiu-jitsu for Charles Oliveira, as well as striking too, but probably pressure striking. Volkanovski is about as opposite as Charles Oliveira as you can get. He's a guy that goes backwards and will pick you apart, who is strong, who doesn't really take it to the ground, who likes to stand it up, while Charles Oliveira is a guy that will take it to the ground, who has a lot of pressure, who will throw a lot of crazy things at you. So for me, I don't think Islam either had the best camp because he didn't prepare all the way. Plus, when you consider the fact that Alexander Volkanovski has probably looked back on his performance to look at his errors, while Islam Makhachev won the fight, so he might not have even looked back at the fight enough in preparation for a rematch. So I think I'm going to go with Volkanovski, but quickly before I end the video, I want to talk about the co-main event because what's going on with the co-main event too? Alright, so a couple hours have passed since I actually recorded the video, so I wanted to make a little update. So as of right now, it's pretty clear, according to Dana White, according to everybody, according to multiple sources, Paulo Costa is most likely not going to fight Khamzat Chimaev, which is absolutely no surprise because his elbow was redder than anything, clearly infected, clearly something's wrong with it. The man should not fight. He just had surgery a few weeks ago. I have no idea why he would go public with this. I explained before, I hate when fighters do this. It's just so annoying because, you know, we saw Logan Paul do something similar where he just revealed that he broke his wrist during training camp. It's like, you're coming into the fight with an excuse already. Like, I get making an excuse after the fact, but this is basically telling your opponent, hey, this is my weakness, I give up already, and you should just do what you want with me, you know what I mean? So I don't think it's fair to your opponent, even though I'm sure that Paulo Costa doesn't really care about Khamzat Chimaev and what he thinks, but that's just my opinion on that subject. But yeah, Paulo Costa is most likely out. It's probably for the best. I doubt he was going to be able to win with that shoulder injury, or I guess I should say elbow injury, whatever. But who is going to replace Paulo Costa? Well, Dana White did tease that, hey, they might have an announcement soon, but according to the same source that leaked that Charles Oliveira was going to be at a UFC 294, they have also leaked that apparently they are having trouble finding a replacement for Paulo Costa, but he is out. He is out. They are just trying to find a replacement. So the fight between Paulo Costa and Khamzat Chimaev is unfortunately off. Now, who could take his place? Well, apparently, according to that same source, Marvin Vettori actually declined the fight. Now, I have no idea why he declined the fight. I assume he has to be injured or something because that would be a massive opportunity. Obviously, with a win against Khamzat on short notice, you'd have to give him some sort of title shot or at least a #1 contenders fight. But Marvin Vettori's out. I mean, who could they replace him with? I have genuinely no clue, but I do have a good idea, which I'm going to reveal in a little bit. But they could do Jared Cannonier. Now, I believe he was going to fight Roman Dolidze at the end of the year. Speaking of, Roman Dolidze actually did tweet out saying he was down to fight in Abu Dhabi. But who do I think should fight Khamzat Chimaev? And I know this might sound unrealistic. There's a couple options. I like the Dricus du Plessis matchup. It makes sense. #1 contenders fight. Will that happen? I have no clue. It could happen. I mean, we don't know. Dricus du Plessis did say he couldn't have made that September 9th date. It is a month and a half later. Could he make make the date? Possibly. I do think it's definitely possible, but I do know somebody that does like to take fights pretty regularly, coming off of a loss, and could really afford to have a chance to redeem himself, and I'm talking about Israel Adesanya. Now, I don't know why we've all just forgotten like he exists. Like, yeah, I get it, he's a star, he was the champion, but he's no longer a champion, and let's be honest, the guy really doesn't deserve another title shot after Sean Strickland dominated him, and I think if he goes in there in a 3-round co-main event against Khamzat Chimaev, he's probably going to get pay-per-view points, if I'm going to be honest, but there is so much incentive for him to take the fight now. I don't know, he could be injured, maybe, you don't know what's going on with him. However, I did think it was really strange how Dana White did say in the press conference, bringing up both Israel Adesanya and Alexander Volkanovski.
Volkanovski crew, I mean, him and Israel, these guys are just absolute studs, man.
Now, I get that they're friends and they both do take a lot of fights and Dana White likes both guys, but it was a weird mention, and I don't think that this is going to happen, if I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm going to put my hands up and say it probably won't happen, but why not? That's a massive co-main event, way bigger than Paulo Costa and Khamzat Chimaev. Have that as the co-main event. If Izzy wins, give him the rematch against Sean Strickland, then the guy deserves it. But yeah, that's what I think, guys. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. You guys are the best fan base in MMA. Comment in the comment section below and I will respond, and I'll see you guys in the next one.